When most of us think about setting, all we really think about in general is a place. We're going to see that setting means a whole lot more than just a place. Okay? So, when you think of setting and what it means, think multifaceted, many parts, many bright, shiny areas. Okay? Because setting is an important thing in any kind of story, any kind of situation. Um, just so you need to think a whole lot bigger than just a place. Okay, now setting definitely does mean a place, yes, but again, we're going to talk to you about thinking much more broadly than just a place. So the room where I'm sitting right now, my office, and you've seen pictures of my office before, it's in my basement, okay? 2 years ago, this was just a basement, okay? But now we've added 2 bedrooms and my office. We've turned it into 2 bedrooms and my office and my workout room next door, um, and a big closet, and we have a big living room area or whatever you want to call it. Um, so even though I'm sitting in this place right now, and I could have been sitting in this place 2 years ago, it would have been entirely different. It would have been just basement. Now, it's carpeted, it's got walls, um, it's got a whole lot more lights, it's got ceiling, um, and it looks like an office. Okay? So even though it's the same place, it's dramatically different. And if I were to go back 5 years, I'd be in the ground. Okay, yeah, okay. I This house wasn't here. So somebody could be standing a few feet up in this same place, but it was dramatically different. It was a fields. Um, so, same place, but totally different. Okay. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of how setting can be more than just a place. Now, I gave you a time factor already, 2 years ago and 5 years ago. Okay, so you know that setting also involves place. I'm sorry, time. Setting also involves time. Okay, that's a big part of it. Okay, so you know you think about where you are in school now. Okay, well, Timon is what, 75 years old. So if you went back 100 years, what would be where you are right now? Undoubtedly not a classroom because Timon's only 75 years old. And you look at the parking lot out back of the school. A friend of mine grew up in a house that was in that parking lot. Okay? So, time makes a big difference. 100 years ago, where Timon sits now was houses, and where that parking lot sits was a friend of mine's house where he grew up. Okay? So, you see how important time is. Okay? Go back to 2 years ago now. Okay? 2 years ago now, we were hearing about this virus. Okay? And 2 years ago now, you were going to school in this same place. But go forward 1 month from 2 years ago, so 23 months from now, you were home, right? School was closed for the year. You were done 2 years ago. Okay? So place, time, dramatically different. Okay? You go back about 150 years, and McKinley Parkway, I mean, you see McKinley Parkway is still beautiful and lots of big homes. But McKinley Parkway was a very, very wealthy kind of street. It still is a very nice street, but it was really a very wealthy street. Okay, so you see how time makes such a difference. Okay, so so that's two parts of setting. Okay, now we're in later on in February. Okay, that's where we are right now. Okay, but up until 2 weeks ago, we were meeting, or maybe 3 weeks ago, I don't know. We were meeting a few classrooms down, and in September, we were opening the windows. Okay, why? Because we wanted to let in air. Now, according to the weather forecast for when we're supposed to be seeing this video, it's going to be really cold out. Okay? So, even a few months ago, things were dramatically different than they are right now. Okay? And of course, right now, we're in the winter season. If you were to be in this classroom in late June and it was a typical 80-degree day, the school isn't air conditioned. So what you're feeling would be very different than that. So, it's, again, setting is not just place, not just time, and even it's there's also season that comes into play. Okay, and well, I don't know, a month or so ago, I think it was January 16th, so a little over a month ago, you were supposed to have school, but you didn't because schools were closed because there was a snow holiday. Okay, so weather is certainly part of setting, isn't it? Okay, so we see how multifaceted setting is. Okay, it has all of these things as part of it. Now, you could be right where you are on February 24th, which should be the day that you're seeing this video, okay? Except that if it were 11:30 at night, you wouldn't be sitting here, would you? Okay? Or if it were 1 o'clock in the morning on February 24th, you wouldn't be sitting here. Okay? So that's another facet of setting. The time of day. If this were a Sunday, you wouldn't be sitting here. Okay? So the day of the week is part of setting. Okay? So look at all the things that we've talked about already as part of setting. Okay? Now, let's say that it was a really dark, overcast day, and we had no power here, no electricity, so that there couldn't be any heat. Do you think you'd be here? Probably not, right? They probably would have closed school for the day if there were no heat, because it's supposed to be, I think, a high in the 20s today. I'm not sure of that, but I think so. Okay, so you wouldn't be here if there were no heat. Okay, so again, the fact that there would be no heat would be part of setting in this room, because the temperature that we're encountering is part of, that's part of setting too. Okay, so look at all the things we've talked about already. Okay, we've talked about, of course, place. We've talked about season. We've talked about time. We've talked about, the century, or the year, even things like season, time of day, the month, so many different things, okay? All of that is part of setting, okay? So you can see that setting is extremely multifaceted, okay? If you went back to the 1960s, pretty much everybody who went to Bishop Timon was Irish. I mean, most of the people at Bishop Timon were from South Buffalo or West Seneca or Orchard Park or Lackawanna, although an awful lot of the kids from Lackawanna went to another school called Baker Victory. Um, First, it was Baker High, and there was a girls' school, Victory Academy. They put the two of them together and called it Baker Victory, and it was down adjacent to where Father Baker's is. Okay, um, so the ethnicity of an area makes a difference too. So in 1960, we probably wouldn't have had somebody like Markowski here, and we probably wouldn't have had Kevin here, and we probably wouldn't have Owen here. Um, so all of those things make up part of setting. Okay? So I want you to understand that there are just a gazillion pieces of setting. I mean, you think about it, okay, so I've told you guys don't have your telephones out unless like Steve takes notes and Josh takes notes and Kevin sometimes takes notes on his phone, and a few guys are taking notes on computers. Okay, and you go back 30 years, 25 years, 20 years, 15 years, and you couldn't have been taking notes on a telephone. Okay, you couldn't do that. We did have portable telephones 15 years ago, but we didn't have portable telephones that you could do the stuff with that you guys can do now. Okay, so the technology that exists in a particular era is part of the setting. And if we went back to I don't know, 50 years ago, there weren't individual laptop computers like what you have. I got my first computer in the 1980s, and it was an Apple IIe, and there were two pieces about so high and so big square. There were two of those that attached to the computer, and all your information was on a disk that you put into that computer, and then you keyboarded on the computer and could put more things on there. Okay, but there was no internet. I mean, you couldn't be watching me the way you're watching me now unless I had recorded it and put it on a disc, and then you had that disc and put it into your personal computer. Okay, so that the existence of technological things is all part of setting. So if we were having this class in 1980, it would be entirely different from what we're doing right now. Okay, and your ways of learning would be different because you wouldn't have spent all the time on the computers that you have. There were no, well, that was kind of the beginning of computer games, but again, there really weren't laptops, so there were some computers, but again, there was no internet, so most of the games you play are on the internet. There was no such thing. So again, most of the computer games that you play just didn't exist. Okay, so all of those things help make up the overall setting. Okay, we've all watched cowboy movies, and in cowboy movies, the mode of transportation is generally horseback. Okay, that's part of the setting situation. Cars didn't exist. Cars weren't around until the early 1900s. The first air flight was the Wright brothers were either 1903 or 1906. Okay, so there was no flight. So if you were going to, excuse me, if you're going to vacation in Florida, it was like, well, you could take a train there, I guess. You know, but other than that, holy cow, that was a many month journey. Okay, so all of these things make up setting, including the advances in the world that have come along that would be part of it. So if you're now if you're in an auto accident, let's say, you can pick up your phone because you all carry cell phones and just call somebody to come and help you. Okay. Well, you go back 30 years and there weren't car phones. People didn't have phones in their cars. So to make a phone call, they'd either have to wait till they got home or they'd have to find a phone, in either a booth or hanging in a little sheltered area on a corner somewhere, in something called a phone booth. Okay. So, all of that has changed so much. So, I can give you example after example after example, but I want you to understand that that setting is totally multifaceted, so many different parts. Okay, and so when you look at setting, you need to look at all of those things. It is not a simple here or here and now. Sorry about that. You know, it's like it's multifaceted. It has a million different parts. My phone just rang twice. You heard it. That disturbed me. Broke my train of thought. But anyway, so think about all of this as we talk about setting, and as we talk about this story today, as well as other stories going forward. Okay. And so now we're going to do. We're going to work on this whole setting thing together.